Good evening, everyone. Today, Tigran is going to present his playing cards called The Four Suits of World War II: Flags, Leaders, Battles, and Weapons. Now, Tigran, I understand that these playing cards are about World War II, but why did you decide on the name?
Hi everyone. So actually I'm very interested in the history of World War II, and actually I read a lot of books about it and investigated the subject seriously actually. And here they are.
Whoa, there's so many.
Yes, but let's go back to our cards. And once I got this idea that actually four suits of playing card deck can ideally represent four major powers of World War II that was most important powers in a war. So let's see. In World War II, Axis fought with Allied powers. Axis were bad guys and Allied good guys. So first major Axis powers that fought in Europe was of course Nazi Germany, headed by Adolf Hitler, right? And Nazi Germany at the beginning of the war won such important victories as capturing small states, conquering Poland, conquering France, conquering Balkans, and they invaded Russia, starting like the bloodiest conflict of the war. Second Axis power, which was also at the beginning of the war very successful, was of course Imperial Japan, Empire of Japan. Empire of Japan also had a series of victories in Pacific. So they took Manchuria, they took China, they advanced in South Asia, and on December 7, 1941, they actually attacked Pearl Harbor. And after that, they conquered vast areas in Pacific. So those were bad guys, right? So what about Allied powers, good guys? Of course, first major Allied power was United States, headed by Franklin Delano Roosevelt during the war. And Patton was one of the famous American commanders, maybe perhaps most famous American commander, had a nickname Old Blood and Guts. And Americans also won greatest victories by the end of the war, like Battle of Midway. Everybody knows about D-Day, right? And Battle of the Bulge. Do you know why it's not over there?
I have no clue.
Actually, it was very famous response of American general when Germans asked him to surrender. He said nuts in response, and Germans couldn't understand it. Of course, there were famous battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa, and when Americans raised their flag, this is the most iconic photo of World War II, perhaps. And Americans finished the war by dropping atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's first major Allied power. And do you know who was second major Allied power?
Was it Great Britain?
Not exactly. It's actually very classic Western point of view. But in reality, second major Allied power was Soviet Russia, headed by Joseph Stalin. And Russians won such greatest victories as Battle of Moscow, the bloodiest and greatest Battle of Stalingrad, the turning point of World War II actually. Russians also won largest tank battle of the war, Battle of the Kursk. Russians conquered German capital Berlin, And not many people know that actually Russians played important role in victory over Japan as well. England was, of course, also great and one of the major Allied powers, but contribution of England to Allied victory cannot be compared to contribution of United States and Russia. So that's about leaders and battles, but we have more. I promise you to show also weapons, right? So tools represent famous submachine guns of all major powers. Trees represent famous tanks of major powers. Fours represent famous planes of major fighting powers. And I have very special fives, which is like each country had actually its revenge weapon, very special revenge weapon. It was Russian rocket launcher, which they called Katyusha. Katyusha is a girl's name in Russian. Germans they invented a flying bomb, ballistic missile, and Hitler actually referred to it as a revenge weapon because they were bombing London in revenge. You know what was American revenge weapon?
The atomic bomb?
Of course, atomic bomb was most terrifying revenge weapon. And then, you know what was Japanese revenge weapon?
I can't remember.
It was kamikaze. So Japanese invented suicide pilots who drew their planes into American ships. And we have more, actually. So if you noticed, we didn't show you jacks, because jacks actually represent closest allies of four major fighting powers. Closest ally of Nazi Germany was Fascist Italy, headed by Benito Mussolini, who was actually founder of fascism. Closest ally of Japan was actually Netaji. Surprisingly, he's still national hero of India because he fought against British oppression. So while he was on the wrong side in World War II, he's sort of good guy because he fought against colonial rule of British, right? Close ally of Russians was China, and under leadership of Chiang Kai-shek, and later in Mao Zedong as well, of course. And closest ally of United States was, of course, British Empire. Here, Winston Churchill, of course, the most famous British world leader, but I wanted emphasize that actually Chamberlain was master of appeasement, and appeasement played very important role how war started actually. And if you notice from major powers, we didn't talk about France, and France represented actually by two cards, jokers, because sort of funny that France fought on both sides of war at the same time. Allied France was headed by national hero French is Charles de Gaulle, right? Who was technically traitor to President of France, Pétain, who headed Axis France, fascist France. So that's our story of World War II. I thought I told about everything. Maybe I didn't.
What about the back of the cards?
Oh, right, I forgot about that. So, on the back of the cards, I can see actually a very famous statue, which now located in Berlin. And this is a statue of Warrior Liberator. So, Warrior Liberator saves the little girl, right? And at the same time, he breaks swastika with his sword, symbolizing victory over Nazi Germany. So I hope you enjoyed my cards for suits of World War II.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.